Hi everyone, it's CDLE. Welcome to Live Wire, our new podcast where we are building community across our agency. There's so much great work happening in CDLE's divisions, offices, and affinity groups, and this is where we'll be showcasing the impact each of you have on Coloradans we serve. This podcast series is brought to you by the creative team in the Office of Government Policy and Public Relations with our host, Deputy Executive Director and Chief Communications Officer, Ms. Cher Haavind.
Well, hello, CDLE community. Welcome back to CDLE Livewire. Hard to believe we are on episode number 8. And we're so excited to bring you the final episode of the year with another VIP guest in studio following last month's episode with Governor Polis. We had such great conversation with the governor about Apprenticeship Month, work-based learning, and the future of Colorado's workforce. So another VIP guest in store today. Before we get to introductions, of course, we have producer extraordinaire Zuhair Shabbir. Hi, Zuhair.
Hello, Cher. How are you doing?
Doing great. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you and all the listeners, all the CDLE community, and especially our VIP guest. I am very excited today.
It's going to be a great conversation. How do you feel about episode 8? Can you believe we made it to the end of the year?
Yeah, it's something really close to my heart this year because this is something which I started with you and we just got along all these bonds, and it's 2023 ending, new plans for 2024, but I'm really excited. This is my first project in the US and I'm really, really happy to do it with you guys. So thank you so much, and I'll remember this as a great memory because, you know, someone who comes from all the way from a different country to the US and then starts a new life here. This first project is so important to me because I did it with you and we made so many episodes, kept on doing it, and finally it's the 8th episode, entering 2024, new excitement, new motivation, so everything's so good. Yeah.
I love it. And new beginnings. That's a great topic for today's episode as well, right? So, well, you've been such an asset to our team, and this has been such a great project to partner with you on and our entire GPPR team. So thank you for everything that you have done. And here's to 2024. Maybe we double the episodes next year. Who knows? We
need to do something, and especially after having amazing VIP guests, the one we are having today. I'm really, really excited because I love sports, and I won't, do spoilers here. So let's get it over to you.
Let's get it going. Thanks, Zuhair. Well, so we are so excited to have with us today a Colorado sports legend, someone that I've had the pleasure of knowing, a couple years now. Really has not only been a sports legend for our state, but is giving back to the community, has pursued a new career in a really exciting field that I think he's very passionate about. So we'll have to hear about how he transitioned from professional sports to his current passion. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce Rich Karlis. Some of you may know him as the Barefoot Bronco, and we'll get into that a little bit. But Rich, welcome to CDLE Livewire.
Yay! It's great to be with you. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you.
In person and be a part of this very interesting podcast.
Interesting it is. You think about the Department of Labor. It could be a little dry at first glance. The reality is we offer so much to the state of Colorado, to the Coloradans we serve. Everything from job training and upskilling to really important benefits in times of need, workers' compensation, soon paid family leave. And so what we love about our CDLE community is we have around 2,000 employees, 7 divisions and 3 offices. Regardless of where you're working or what your daily routine is, we are really, we feel, on-the-ground contributors to our state's vitality and our workforce. And we find that very meaningful. And you are a contributor to our state's economy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to take us back to Rich Karlis as a Denver Bronco. And for those of you longtime Bronco fans, of which I am one as a native, you are known as the Barefoot Bronco. Share with our listeners, I guess, first of all, how did you find your way into the NFL? And more specifically, why barefoot?
Well, I'll try to not talk too long about that, but I decided I got talked into coming out for football my senior year in high school. I walked on as a punter and did some kicking. We weren't very good. We won one game that year, but I liked it enough, and it kind of lit the match for me of the passion for punting at the time. Ended up at the University of Cincinnati, walking on there as a punter. They kept me around as a walk-on. That means no decal on the helmet, no good clothing or anything, or a lot of holey socks. And then in spring ball my freshman year, they said, hey, we got enough punters. Why don't you work on kicking? I'd never played soccer, but I liked to kick. And I'd seen Tony Franklin kicking barefoot at Texas A&M and thought, what the heck, I'll just try it. Because I had no idea what I was doing. And I learned real quickly that when I hit the ball good, it would go far and it wouldn't hurt. And if you did not do it well, it kind of hurt. So I learned to concentrate. Fast forward, they finally put me on scholarship after my junior season. And I did field goals my senior year and kickoffs. I did kickoffs my sophomore and junior year, and then field goals, extra points, and kickoffs my senior year. And then all of a sudden I was done. It was out, and I was like, I'm just getting a hang of this. So I met my attorney who knew the head coach at Houston, the Oilers at the time, Eddie Biles, and he talked him into giving me a tryout. I went down, lasted like 3 weeks. And then they get knock on your door at 7 a.m. and said you bring your playbook down to room 104 and you're back home that afternoon. Wrote letters to all the teams in the NFL for the next year. And one of the letters, most of the letters back in those days were your name handwritten and a mimeograph sheet of paper with a rejection. But the Broncos had, the only year they did it, they had an open free agent camp in May 8th of 82. Oh. And so you paid your own way, showed up, 476 guys showed up, 75 kickers, and they're like, get in groups of 5, you'll get 2 kicks from 20, 30, 40, and 50 yards. It was pretty daunting because I trained really hard, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get lost in this mix of people.
Yeah.
And I kicked really well that day, and Fran Pulsfoot, who was the special teams coach, came up and say, hey, 192, what's your name? And like, where are you from? And, why did we not know of you? And so they signed me out of that. John Beek eventually relented and gave me a $500 signing bonus so I could at least pay for my airfare coming to Denver. And I came to training camp and competed with 4 other guys all through training camp. And just every day charted everything, And then the last cut came, and it was Fred Steinfort and me. He was the incumbent, and I never got the call. So I showed up at practice and looking around, and I'm like, no one told me to leave. So I ended up playing the two games in 1982, and then we went on strike for 8 weeks.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that was pretty demoralizing, after finally making the team to have that happen. But I think about just how blessed I am that I got to come here to Colorado. The timing was right. In 1983, the next year, we traded for Elway, and the fortunes of the franchise, really took off after that.
Right. 82 to
88 here.
That's right. Yeah. So we were talking before the show. I saw an episode of Peyton's Place not too long ago where you were coaching our dear Peyton Manning on how to kick a football barefoot. What score would you give him on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I think he chose the right position to play. Let's put it that way. He was a good sport. Yeah. I told him I thought he was nuts for even wanting to try it. And but he, he's a funny guy. He's He brings a lot of good spirit to it, and I think it's a real tribute to us as Coloradans that he chose to stay here and make this his home.
Well, we do live in an amazing, wonderful, beautiful state. We are also lucky to live here. Well, let's transition a bit away from your career in football and talk about your transition into the corporate world. So when you left the NFL, did you have an idea about where you wanted to go next?
No, I always worked like in the off seasons. I'd worked a couple years for Phil Longford down in Colorado Springs at the time, and a couple years with Jack DeHar at Silta Harp in Broomfield, learning that business a little bit. I worked just always tried to stay active in the off season. I'd started a charity called Points for People in '84. So I was also doing a ton of public speaking, out raising awareness and fundraising, things like that. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And then when I left the game in 1991, I hooked up with Carl Scheer, who used to run the Nuggets, and some guys at GBSM had set him up to start a sports marketing company. So I joined them just as a contributor and was trying to learn the sports marketing business, and worked there for a couple of years, and then took over a minor league soccer team for a young German that owns, the family owns a lot of property in Parker, Stroh Ranch. And so I cut my teeth in trying to run a soccer team for 4 years, sold it, did a couple years in software for him, just trying to run his North American operation. And then in 2001, I joined Quest as originally in one of their startup companies. And then in '02, when Dick Nodebart took over, I joined on the corporate side, and they said, hey, about this sports stuff, so will you run the sports stuff for us? And we're not going to do anything with the sports stuff. I'm like, okay. And then 6 months later, I was buying the naming rights in Omaha of what became Quest Center Omaha and the convention center there.
Okay.
And then a year later, I was buying the naming rights in Seattle, the Seahawks Stadium, that at that time was Quest Field, then became CenturyLink Field, and now is Lumen Field, but all the same company. So I really hit my stride corporately because I loved marrying my sports experience and learning on the business side, and then how to take those assets to benefit the whole company, whether it was employees, whether it was a community piece, whether it was a sales organization, the marketing organization, and whatnot. So I had a blast for 20 years doing that. And then we got new leadership who said, we don't really like the brand stuff, so, goodbye. So they said, they treated me really well, but all of a sudden I was 61, I think, 61, and was like, okay, what do I want to do now? Now I can pick what I want to do.
Right, yeah. Which leads to where I want to go next with your background, which is a little bit of, maybe I can say, reinvention. And I'd like to dig into how you got to where you are now, and talk about your life here. We are right now, actually, we are in studio, but we are also in Rich's woodworking studio. And so let's talk a little bit about this passion that you have now for woodworking, and how did you get into that? Were you always interested in this kind of craft?
I wouldn't say I was. I grew up in my dad's business, which we did pretty much everything. We did roofing, we did construction, we did all kinds of stuff. So, including sanding gym floors at high schools, which I always liked. So I knew how to use tools and was handy that way. But when I left corporate after 20 years, I was like, I'm going to step back and really think about stuff. And I did Pete Carroll's program that he has like a little mini university online that I did. And that was really helpful for me of where I wanted to prioritize, just my time. And I've always been very active in the community since I came to Denver. So I thought, well, I'll dabble in this. And I had a niece that said, hey, can you build me this charcuterie board? And at that time, I couldn't even say the word, let alone make one. But I learned my belief is you're never too old to learn something new.
Great.
And that you need to stretch yourself and push yourself. And I'm a visual learner, so, if you send me a picture of something, usually I can recreate that picture close. So, I started dabbling in the woodworking stuff, and then someone said, yeah, you could sell these. And I'm like, really? And so I built my own website. I was going to just name it Barefoot Woodworking, but some guy in Indiana had that name.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, how about Barefoot Bronco Woodworking? And so, I trademarked it, built the website, used my Facebook and LinkedIn accounts, and it's organically just taken off. I'm doing so many fun projects, and I continue to learn and stretch yourself, because woodworking, the breadth of woodworking is just, you never master all of it. There's just too much of it.
Sure. Well, and that is reinvention. So that path that you discovered and where you are now, you seem very fulfilled. What you're exploring a craft. You're probably learning new maybe techniques, or there's probably some new tool that's available as your craft changes. And this is our listeners will be able to see the video component of today's podcast, and it's just great to meet someone who went from sports to corporate to now really the arts and is doing well and doing what you love. And
I never thought that I had that. I never thought I had the patience to build something that, that kind of craftsmanship. So it's been really fulfilling for me. But the other piece that I wanted to be able to continue is, how can I continue to contribute both financially and with my time in our community? So, I'm able to take proceeds from what I do and give to those charities that have meant so much to me through the years.
Oh, that's a great segue. I want to dig into that in a minute, your commitments to the community and giving back. Before we get to our rapid fire segment, let's just talk a little bit about some organizations that are very near and dear to your heart. I know there's two in particular, but tell us about the National Sports Center for the Disabled and that program in Winter Park. We spoke about that. I'm very familiar with that organization. What's your role, and why is that important to Colorado?
So I'd served on different nonprofit boards over the last 40 years, and this when I was leaving the Y, the Metro Denver Y, I was like, I think I'm going to approach NSCD because I'd skied in their events for 30 some years, and I would like that. I'd like to give my time to that organization now, and I currently chair that board, and. Really exciting stuff. When you think about what Hal O'Leary started in like 50 some years ago on the adaptive side, and really creating programs of saying, look, regardless of your disability, and you want to get on that mountain, we will find a way to get you on that mountain. And the staff they're so passionate and so dedicated to fulfill those needs. I just love being a part of that organization.
Before we close, we'll get to rapid fire, and then I want you to take us back to a moment in your NFL career when you kicked a game-winning field goal to take us to the Super Bowl. And I want to talk with you about that, because I've learned that in professional athletes and really most athletics, it's about visualization. And I think that's an important lesson about visualizing where you want to be and where you want to go. And it's meaningful for athletes and for someone who is even maybe changing career paths. So, but first, let's stop. This is a very popular portion of CDLE Livewire, and pivot to the rapid fire. Okay, Rich, and you have not seen these questions beforehand, so listeners, this is truly an organic rapid fire. So here we go. One thing on your bucket list.
Oh my gosh, one thing on my bucket list, probably to golf in Ireland.
Okay. Woodworking, hand tools or power tools?
Power tools.
Workshop, ambiance, silence or music playing?
Either music or books on tape.
Precision or creativity?
Ooh, creativity.
Football nostalgia, vintage jerseys or modern sports gear?
Oh, vintage.
What movie are you excited about?
Well, which, like an old one or anything
let's
new?
Just say upcoming, new release, classic, 80s genre.
We saw the latest Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Flowers of the Moon. Flower Moon. Anyway,
Very memorable, I take it.
I had read the book, and it was a long movie, but it was really
Good movie.
really
You'd
touching.
recommend.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Well, okay, that is a nice segue. What's the next book on your reading list? So you just read that one.
Yep. I'm a big Ken Follett reader, but his latest one was Never, which I finished. I think it was probably about 6 months ago. So I'm waiting for his next one.
Okay.
Other than that, I fill my time with like murder mystery books.
Okay. Lastly, just because we have one in studio, dogs or cats?
Pretty much dogs, although the cat has made itself very much at home here in my shop.
Well, she could be a sound effect, but we love more guests in studio, the better.
Her name's Rosalita. We're big Bruce Springsteen's fans, so.
Great job. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks.
Well, as we bring this episode to a close, as I mentioned, Rich kicked a game-winning field goal in the AFC Championship against the Browns in 86? Seven, okay.
It was the 86 season, but
Right,
it was in
okay.
January of 87.
To take the Broncos to the Super Bowl. And I play sports, so I understand that a lot of professional athletes use the tools of visualization to visualize that field goal or reaching the end zone, the finish line. Talk to us, number one, about how that felt in that moment, and the importance of, regardless of what your goals are, the importance of visualizing success and what that means.
Well, in sports probably in life we never know when our number's going to get called. So you don't know how the script's going to play out. So you better be ready, and spend a lot of time, I think visualization helps. The other thing for a kicker is there's so much time between kicks that you've got to really keep your mind distracted because those negative thoughts creep in, the wind, the weather, the situation. So, it's a real, I think, an ongoing battle of how to block those negative thoughts out and think of only good things happening. And so I'm a big believer in that. And I probably do a lot of visualization today at about 2 or 3 in the morning when I'm thinking about one of these wood projects,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
So before we close, it's Barefoot Bronco woodworking, and you do create some beautiful pieces. You also are a beekeeper,
I am a beekeeper.
right? And you told us your bees do they hibernate during the winter, or what happens with
They,
them?
they do. They use their food stores, from the summer months, and they cluster together in the center of the hives to stay warm. And then they kind of like penguins do. They rotate from the outside to the inside to keep themselves warm. They're amazing to watch, and just their passion and their discipline, and everyone plays their part. Right? Everyone knows their part, and they play their part.
Rich, so many themes we can relate to almost everyone, not just our CDLE community, but it's been so great having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing some perspective on where you've been and where you are now. And Coloradans truly appreciate all that you're doing to give back to the community now, and all that you've done with your legacy in our great state. So thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Cher. Appreciate it.
that brings episode 8 to a close and also 2023. So Zuhair, thanks for making this a great year. Thanks for your partnership on this great new channel that we're bringing to our CDLE community. Jessica Smith is always off camera behind the scenes. If we had a camera, we'd turn it on her right now. But Jessica, Oscar, everybody in GPPR has been a great contributor to this podcast. I'm really excited about next year. We wish everyone at CDLE and beyond a happy and healthy holiday season.
And since Cher is thanking everyone, I especially want to thank Cher for accepting this idea and making it a reality. So thank you so much, Cher, for giving it a memory to all of us we'll remember and cherish throughout our lives. And thank you for being the host. You're amazing.
Wow. It's a team effort for sure. To everyone, we're signing off for 2023. Stay safe and happy and healthy. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Cher Haavind. Haavind.
Haavind.
Haavind. Haavind.
No.
Haavind.
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 Yes.